Power Rangers. Now this of course is going to be my spoiler-free review for the film. Of course, if you guys want to check out my spoiler discussion, there'll be a link in the description for that video, which I'm going to do right after this. So once it's uploaded, you'll be able to find the link. Getting right into this, I'm a big fan of Power Rangers. I watched it for a super long time. I stopped a few years back. The last show I watched, I believe, was Mystic Force. I'm pretty sure that's the name of it. So that was like, I'm pretty sure that was the last series before Saban actually bought it back and it moved from Disney to Nickelodeon, which is where it's been for the past couple of shows. But I still love Power Rangers. I'll still go back and watch, old episodes, and I always watch some random thing on Power Rangers because I really like Power Rangers. So going into this, I was looking forward to seeing how they were going to play it. We knew it was going to be darker. It was, a more realistic version in a sense. It's not as campy, I guess is the only way to put it. It's not exactly more realistic. It's just a little bit less campy. And they certainly have some of the campiness in there for sure, especially in the beginning of it. I'd say it's super, super campy, kind of like what they had with, the old show, and it's pretty funny. And then it gets into more of the serious stuff around like Act 2, and then Act 3 kind of goes back a little bit to what they did with the beginning of the film, where it was a bit campier, and that's of course because it's the ultimate showdown, which is like any of the TV shows. It's the big monster battle, and that's just how it plays out. But I really enjoyed most of the first half. I enjoyed, and then I felt it started to become less and less as it actually went on, and that was my biggest issue with the film, is that I really loved the opening of the movie. I think them introducing the characters was pretty cool, especially Jason and Billy meeting was probably the best thing about this whole film. Like, Billy was my favorite character in the whole movie, and I was like, they did a great job with how they wrote that character. I think he was the best character in the entire film, honestly, but I love what they did with him and the way that their relationship played out, like how they met up and everything. I enjoyed that. And of course, a lot of people have this comparison where it's like the Breakfast Club sort of thing because of the whole detention element to it. But that's not really how all the characters actually end up meeting. So, I feel like that's not really a fair comparison. It's not like everyone's stuck in detention. It's like, honestly, like 3 of the characters. And then other than that, it's totally separate. And even the 3 characters that are in detention together, not all 3 of them actually meet because of that's where they are. So I feel like it's kind of a harsh comparison to do it that way because it's not like they spend that much time in detention, but they definitely spend a lot of time on the drama side of things once they actually get to it. And like I said, I say it's like maybe the first half, a little bit less than the first half. It's kind of campy Power Ranger stuff. It's the characters being silly and trying to figure out what the heck is going on, getting the crystals and learning about all of this craziness. And that's pretty fun. And then we get introduced to Rita, which is pretty cool. What they do with Rita, I think, in the beginning, because she kind of has like 2 halves a little bit. The first half with her, super freaking cool. It was actually very creepy and stuff. It's not what you would probably think of with Rita. So I really loved that. And then when it got to more of the normal Rita, at first it was cool because there's actually like some stuff that she does that I really enjoyed. And then once it got to like Rita is just the main person and then she summons other creatures, I was like, okay, that's not as cool. But when she wasn't summoning a bunch of things and she was kind of doing her own stuff, like they show in the trailer where she goes against Trini and she's like fighting her like in her own room, when she does stuff like that, which unfortunately, like I said, is kind of only like the first half of her. I thought that was great because I was like, this is cool. We see Rita kind of doing that. She's not just the boss and she sends a monster down to Earth. That's sort of the deal. So I was like, that I think is pretty sweet. She's actually getting her hands dirty. She kind of has to rise herself up to get to the point where she is, the Rita Repulsa that we know. And I thought that part was cool. But once she gets there, I was like, oh, I feel like she just does way less now because she's got all the power. So I was like, oh, that kind of sucked to me for what they did with her in the beginning. I just felt it lessened by the end, and I was like, oh, that's unfortunate. She just became, Rita Repulsa, who doesn't really do much. I was like, oh, it sucks compared to some of the really crazy stuff we got to see her do early on in the film that I thought was really cool for her character, because you don't get that from the super campy original series. So I was like, I really like that. Once again, that's, the big thing about the film is like, for me, the first half was really good. Introducing the Rangers, introducing, the actual kids to what it is to be a Ranger and stuff like that. The jokes I thought were pretty funny. The characters I thought were really well done. And then it gets to the serious side, the darker stuff that people were probably worried about for the film. And that's where it starts to drag, because there was a huge chunk. Once it drags, it's like it's dragging for a while. It's like it's dramatic, and it starts off fine. It's like, okay, you have the dramatic portion and it kind of ties into what they're doing and everything. And I'm like, okay, this makes sense. You got to have this moment. And then after that, there were a couple things where I was like, okay, now it's starting to fall apart, and it's just hitting normal movie beats. And there were a couple of things in between there. Like I said, some of the stuff with Rita Repulsa comes up after kind of the typical drama stuff that they were doing with the teens. But then it gets to a part where, Rita Repulsa kind of does her thing, and I was like, that was a great scene. Like, there's a specific scene, of course, I can't get into spoilers, but there's a scene after the stuff, where she handling Trini and stuff. After that, there's another scene that's similar to it, and I thought it was a great sequence, and it certainly didn't play out the way that I thought it would, and that was one of my favorite parts of the movie. Because I was like, oh, well, okay, we know what's going to happen here. And then it did, and I was like, that is about the exact opposite of what I expected, and I didn't know how things were going to continue. I was like, I know they will, but how does this actually play out from here? So there's a specific scene in between some of the stuff where I was like, oh, this is just dragging on. It's too much of the drama. Where I was like, this is a nice twist on the drama. It was very dramatic, but it was like, holy crap, how did this actually end up happening type of drama. So I really enjoyed that for sure. But it just lasted way too long. It was just a big chunk where it was so much drama in the middle. And then that's finally leading up to the end climax where, it's the Rangers versus Rita and Goldar, which still had an issue with that. Still wasn't a big fan of the way it looked. Some of the effects that they have for Goldar were pretty cool. Same thing with Alpha 5. I was like, I was never worried about the character. It was just the visuals. I still don't personally like how they did the visuals, but the introduction of Alpha 5 is actually really awesome. They have, of course, the references to the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, so that was pretty cool. There are a lot of the lines in here. They sound kind of weird because I feel like they had to put them in there as the references, and I feel like none of them actually flow except for a couple of them. Where they're like the actual lines from the old series. I'm like, oh, only a couple of these I felt really worked. Any other time it's just like, just throw in the one-liner, we need to do it. And I was like, it just never really felt like it worked. Outside of a few rare points where it's like, that's the exact line from the original series. And it really works here. And then the other times it was just like, they just had to throw it in, so they threw it in there. But that was the big thing. It was like the first half, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. We have some action stuff going on a little bit when, like in the trailer, they show them where they're training. That's fairly early on in the film after they get introduced to being Rangers. And then there is such a giant chunk of time missing for action. And when the action's missing, so is the comedy, and it's like mostly drama. There are a couple of jokes in there still, but it's mostly drama, and that's where it really drags. And then it picks up again towards the end where, we get to see the Zords and everything, and that's really cool. But that big part where it drags in the middle is the biggest issue I have with the whole thing. And it just it slowed it down so much. It was just like, man, the whole first half, I was like, I'm really enjoying this. They don't have to be Rangers straight off the top because they're introducing them, and I understood that. And then once they get to it, I was like, cool. They're still training to be Rangers and things like that. And then it just starts lasting a little too long where they're not Rangers. And not only are they not, like, officially Rangers, but like they literally are not Power Rangers, and it takes a very long time to get what you would pretty much expect to see because it's Power Rangers. You have the characters, and then you have them as Power Rangers, and there's a huge chunk of time where it's just characters, and they are not Power Rangers yet, and it took way too long. And I was like, they should have done a thing where, we just see them as the Power Rangers way earlier in the movie. Maybe it doesn't last super long, but they needed to put that in there way earlier, especially with it being Power Rangers. Even people that aren't huge fans of it kind of know what to expect. And the craziest thing, like if you've seen the trailers, especially I think the last official trailer that they had where, we see like the first time they did the trailer where they showed the full outfits, and we see them fighting putties. We see them doing like the slow motion sequence where they all walk together and they're inside the Zords. That's honestly like most of the time you see them as Power Rangers. Like a lot of the time that they are Power Rangers, they're in the Zords. We hardly see them outside of the Zords as Power Rangers. Like we barely even get to see that once it officially does happen. It's like we see it for a bit, and then the rest of it, that's probably like, I don't know, maybe 10% is actually just them as Power Rangers. The other 90%, like they're in the suits of course, but they're in the Zords. They aren't moving around in the suits and fighting, and it's really cool. The other 90% is them in the suits inside the Zords, and the Zords are cool. But it's like, man, if we're not going to see them as Power Rangers that much anyway, I'd like to see them just do some hand-to-hand combat. It's as campy as it was still a bunch of flips and kicks, and that was kind of cool back in the day. It's still cool now, it's martial arts. But a big chunk of that was missing from the film, and they, I would assume they're going to get a sequel. I mean, I don't know how many people have gone to see it just yet. I know the reviews weren't so great, but I don't know. I mean, if we do end up getting a sequel to this, I hope they learn from their mistake, and they kind of have to, because that was the whole point of the film, is that they had to learn to be Rangers, which is why we have to wait so long to see it. But it just felt too long, especially for a 2-hour film. There's a lot of that drama stuff where it was like they could just took that out, make it an hour and a half, maybe just have 30 minutes of the drama and just do 30 intro, 30 drama, which still would have dragged a little, but not nearly as much. Because I feel like after that big first part, I feel like it's almost like 40 minutes of it. It's not like 30. It's like almost 40 to 45 minutes, almost a full hour. It feels like it's that drama stuff, and it was just like, man, yeah, it's just dragging so long. It just feels like it's taken a really long time, because it starts off with the drama, and it's like, yeah, that makes sense. It has to have that drama in there at some point, because it was all jokes and stuff for a long time, and then it got to the dramatic part, and it was like, okay, it makes sense. This is a part of the learning lesson, things like that. And then the drama kept going, and I was like, okay, it can last for a little bit. You have one drama scene, and then you have the reflection on the drama. That's pretty much how it works. And then the resolution to the drama. And it felt like that resolution came like 4 steps later, and there was extra drama thrown in, and there were just extra story elements that they didn't really need to have later. It was like they could have done all the story elements together or just closer together, but it dragged out a little longer than I felt it should have. And that's what really brought the movie down in the middle. And it just felt like the biggest piece. It probably wasn't, but I feel like it was maybe, if not the biggest chunk of the film, it's definitely like the second biggest chunk of the film just drags. And that's the big issue. Like I said, the first half, really enjoyed it. And then once it gets to that drama, which may have been the biggest chunk of the film or second biggest part, all of it drags to me. There's like some snippets in there that work, like the Rita Repulsa stuff is pretty good, but there's so much timing in between those great moments during this giant long sequence of just kind of nothingness in between, the beginning, which was fun, and the end, which was good. And that was my big issue. And then the ending, I felt, because it took forever to get to the Ranger stuff, and I felt we didn't see it nearly as much as we should have. I felt like it didn't really live up to as much as, I wanted it to be, but it was still cool. I didn't see nearly as much as I was hoping to see, because it's like, finally, they're the Rangers. And really, it was like the last 30 minutes. Once they become Rangers, that's like the whole rest of the film. So it is pretty cool once you see it. But like I said, we don't really see them too much outside of the Zord. So it's like all, Zords running around. The Zords look great, but I want to see those kicks and flips way more than I got to see them in the film. So that was my biggest issue with it. But I still say see it if you're a Power Rangers fan. If you happen to have kids who just like explosions and this and that, maybe they'll like it. There's a lot of swearing in this too. That was something that really caught my attention for a PG-13 movie. They swear a bunch in this. Like, they were pushing it to the limit with what they could say. Visually, there is a bit of blood in there, so I enjoyed that too. I was like, that is a bit more mature, where they get hit outside of their suits. They get hit, and it's like, they bleed. It's like they get beat up, and I was like, that's pretty cool to actually see. So I enjoyed that for sure, but they swore like crazy in this. I was so surprised how many times they swore in this movie. I was like, man, that's very shocking. Like, I know it's PG-13, and that's, obviously right before R, but typically it's like, you get your one F-bomb, and you can probably say, like, certain people watch my video, so I just say the S word, a couple of times, but that swear is like at least 13 swears in this film. At least 13. Like, every couple of minutes somebody swore, and I was like, wow, that's not just hell or damn. It's like, no, it's a bigger word, some things you can't say on TV. So I was like, they threw it in there a lot. So I certainly enjoyed that. The teenagers with attitudes, and that was a big part of it. Some of the jokes were definitely more mature, which I enjoyed. They did that like right off the top. They did some mature jokes, so that was pretty funny. But, and that's a big contrast with the film. I feel like the first part is like the really campy stuff, and it works perfectly. It's really silly, and the characters are just being crazy, and they get into this crazy situation, and they're like, okay, maybe we should do this, maybe we shouldn't, but, things just escalate, and it's crazy and funny. And then that drama comes in. It's like, it works for that first part, because you need it at some point. You don't, but, typical movie flow is like, let's put that drama in there somewhere. And then they just stretch that out way too long, and then we finally get the ending. So I still think it was enjoyable in some regards. I think they did a great job in the beginning capturing the campiness and the fun of Power Rangers, and then they went way too far with the drama and stuff. I still think it's worth checking out if you do like a matinee or something like that. I'd still say it's worth, checking out. It's hard to say if you'll enjoy it as a Power Rangers fan. I enjoyed it, but my girlfriend hated it. So, like, it's impossible to say, because we both really like Power Rangers. I like it more than she does, but she's a huge fan of, this is based off of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, not like Ninja Storm or anything, so it doesn't really matter. It's like we're both huge fans of the original, and she hated it. She hated the movie. We also had a terrible movie going experience, so that I'm sure that had something to do with it, but she really wasn't enjoying the film. I personally thought it was okay, but like I said, that's where, I can't really just say you'll like it if you're a Power Rangers fan, so it's really up to you if you think you'll like it. I personally thought it was okay, but I would love to know if you've seen it, or if you haven't seen it, what you're thinking about the film, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. Like I said, I'm going to do a spoiler video, so if you want to save all your comments if they're spoiler related, you can just wait till that comes out. But if you don't want to wait, just make sure you put a spoiler tag so nobody does get spoiled for, certain elements of the film, because there are some things in here, especially like I said, some of the Rita Repulsa stuff. There's one particular thing she does that I would say is like the biggest spoiler of the entire film, just because it's a surprisingly good moment. So there's like the one really big spoiler, I think, out of the whole film, and that's about it. There is a mid-credit sequence, like how movies always have like their special credits, and then they go to like just the black and white text. Before the black and white text, there is a mid-credit sequence. I don't believe there is not an after-credit sequence, but there is a mid-credit sequence. So at least be sure to stick around for like the fancy credits until you see that scene. But like I said, it's really up to you. It's hard to say, because I would just say you'll like it if you're a fan, but I enjoyed it. Like I said, my girlfriend like absolutely hated it though, so there's stuff you can certainly get out of it for sure, but it's hard for me to just instantly recommend it for Power Rangers fans. I like it though, so maybe you will, maybe you won't. But like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about it, if you've seen it or if you're thinking about it. So please put your comments down in the comment section below, and of course, thanks for watching.